So we go back to that all-important issue of the e-levy, and we've had extensive discussions on it. Yesterday we gave you a breakdown of what to expect should it, come into force on or from different angles. But it still hasn't still happened. Will the minority let this go? So far, they have said no. It's an ironclad no. They are not going to let this e-levy pass. The majority caucus is saying this is the way to go. Ken Ofori-Atta, Minister of Finance, has said that at least they are willing to bring it down from 1.75% to 1.5%. In our sub-region, there are so many examples we can actually use. But all of those examples are pegged below what. Today we're going to hear from the very people who are going to be deliberating on this, the members of Parliament, and we'll also hear from an expert on parliamentary affairs. Now, joining us for this conversation, even as we talk about a hung Parliament and whether it's been a blessing or a curse, we have Dr. Stephen Amoah. We all call him Sticker. He is MP for Nshia. So, Sticker, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, bro.
It's always a pleasure having you.
It's always a big pleasure being here because your platform is quite, yes.
Anyway.
That is my view.
And we're reaching beyond Africa or even into beyond Ghana. But let's look at someone else who will be joining the conversation, Professor Kwabena Safo-Kantanka. He is with Odikro. Now, he will bring us expert views of the House of Parliament, how far we've come, what he's seen, and what we can expect moving forward on the e-levy and, of course, on this hung Parliament that we have. Both of them join the conversation. Person to you that the big stories are on the AM show, do that now. Share the word or spread the word. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we'll have Prof join us shortly. But let me start with you, Dr. Amoah. This e-levy thing, look, let's be very frank. I listened to you on Newsfile over the weekend and all of that. Are you certain you can?
Our viewers this very morning. You can see my face, I'm very tired.
I know.
So forgive me the stress. Is it?
And thank you, regardless of the stress, thank you for coming. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. I can't afford not to come to this table. I think your question is extremely legitimate. Okay. However, I think we should rather concentrate on whether it is something we need or not in terms of our fiscal space. This is where I want experts to discuss thoroughly with detailed alternatives if they have, or detailed support for this. Because if I speak, if NDC brother speaks, they all look like it's politics. Even if you speak the truth professionally, they will say it's politics. And even other people will insult you, whether it's NDC or MPP. So I'm expecting the experts to come out to say that in the area of health, education, social intervention, the accumulated debt service, how is going to be managed in terms of interest payments. Then we have these facts with correct data points. This is all my problem. It's not anything. This is all. Pushing it, the majority will go all out to push it. Minority may, because they are human beings, they may change their minds, go all out to impose it. The only thing that I find quite ironical is the fact that the minority brothers are of the view that if we pass this bill, we are going to be unpopular and lose 2024 elections.
Right.
And now they are pushing it not to be passed. Doesn't mean they want MPP to continue. I think from them and from us, it's all about politics. Because if something is not good for your opponent, a competitor within an industry, and you think that will give you competitive edge, why do you take a position that would rather give the other person competitive edge?
Let's take both of you. Let's take both of you out of the picture, both the MPP and the NDC, and see whether the NDC could be, even if you want to say, playing to the gallery, right? Because it's the same people who are going to vote in 2024. And they are saying the people are opposed to it. Look, we've had surveys here conducted on social media and beyond. We've spoken to people in Kumasi and all of that, where 9 out of 10 people are saying, finish. On social media, most of the engagements I have had have not been very positive towards the e-levy. So wouldn't you say then that, I mean, maybe they are, even if you want to say playing to the gallery, and even if you take the two of you out of the picture, Are you looking at the ordinary Ghanaian rather than focusing on, oh, the opposition is resisting us, it is politics?
In the first place, let's be honest with ourselves. Where in our country, which historical records illustrate the fact or otherwise that Ghanaians willingly, happily want to pay tax? So it's something that you don't have to even concentrate your energies on. You don't want to, I don't want, naturally even paying your own child school fees.
Right.
I mean, so this is not anything that you can sit there and say Ghanaians want or not. Because naturally, instinctively,
people will resist that.
Exactly. So
but don't you think if
it depends on the communication that we took for granted. Because in our history, between 2014 and 2016, and the NDC, they passed about 26. They increased or imposed together about 26 taxes.
But the NDC has contested you vigorously.
No, but it's in the budget.
About some 26.
Well, so
and you keep pointing to the budget, and they are saying that is not factual.
So why won't you go into the budget? So it's in the hand side.
Right.
It's in the budget. So I can't lie. 2017, MPP government either reduced or entirely extracted about 16 tax components. And later on, they added about 6.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the whole tax policy management is calibrative, depending on what is happening. And nobody wants to pay tax. And normally when these things are done, they don't do any consultations. But I'm sure this time we should have really done proper consultation, engage stakeholders. Once people are fed into believing otherwise, it becomes what we are having today. But boss, let me ask you, do we need our revenue generation today? The effective tax rate of this country, whether under NDC or MPP, whether COVID or not, has been negative.
I have read documents. I mean, the finance minister has said that it's just about 8.2% of us who are, those in the public service also, who are actually footing the bill of the entire country. People
whether that is factual or
incomes
not,
are being taxed.
What I'm saying is the effective tax rate is when you subtract money spent, transferred. I mean, you divide that among the households in Ghana, and you subtract that from our taxes over our total revenue, it's been negative. What it means is that naturally, this country always likely to run deficits, which is not good for us.
Right.
2, even within the sub-Saharan Africa, this country is ranked one of the weakest countries in terms of tax we generate within the developing economies, and even over 30, or slightly below 30 within the developed economies, we are around 11%. So all these factors are not good for us. And now we have a situation where our GDP has been sluggish, not because of Akufo-Addo's poor leadership. Because, markets have been so sluggish because of this disease, even to the extent that at a point in time, we had to stay home. Let me also flow small, then come in. Boss, have you forgotten that private sector had to sack over 40,000 Ghanaians?
Right.
All the payees government were supposed to collect, we could not again.
Right.
Corporate taxes went down badly. 2020, we had over 11 billion shortfalls. And government still had to perform obligations. So government resorted to all the advice that no, the way we are borrowing against our GDP growth is dangerous, which is a fact.
Right.
So we should find a way of consolidating our fiscal space using revenue generation. People can argue that, the alternative chosen by the government is not the best. We can do A, B, we can do that for now. This is government option.
Okay.
And we are saying that we should widen the tax net.
Right.
And now we are saying that, you cannot. You are taxing this. You are doing that. I am asking you and all Ghanaians now, in terms of knowledge and everything.
You're saying nobody can offer alternatives?
Offer alternative other than finding a way of getting immediate revenue generation model that will solve the immediate needs of this country. And
okay, right.
We can plan
before we get into the alternatives.
I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I do. But before we get into the alternatives, because certain things have been proposed, sometimes
proposed,
not just
are they backed?
We should get into them.
Properly researched data points.
We shall specify.
Factual and
you can tell me what your take is on that.
Okay,
but
please.
I just had to pull you back a bit. Yeah. You've just, the fiscal deficit for 2021, we missed our fiscal deficit. We had the Bloomberg assessment. We've had the ratings and all of that. But is it that every problem we have, economically speaking, can be tied down? No, I'm just asking. Because you made a point that, I mean, always the rhetoric is on the back of COVID-19. And this is a question that people put out there, that is everything on the back of
It's a propaganda question. Do you know why?
Tell us.
I have not listed everything say COVID. The explanation I gave, nobody, honestly speaking, as a professional person, will argue about this.
Right.
All that I'm saying is that if you look at almost all the economic indicators that the Akufo-Addo government took over, about 90%, they are better than we took over. Check all of them.
Argument you've made time without number, but let's focus on COVID. So I want to find out.
So I'm explaining why it's not everything, but what we are saying fit the situation. What we are saying is that our major problem now is our debt to GDP, that we all know. GDP
and that was already a problem before COVID.
Yeah, but not as this. Not as this. Even our GDP average was growing around 6.9 before COVID. It's a fact.
Let me ask you, what was our debt? Our debt.
I want to tell you why we can associate this with COVID. You allow me to give the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that GDP that has not been growing. GDP is the main function of productivity.
Right.
And maybe labor force in terms of size and then in terms of skill. And then we have a situation where markets were sluggish, not because of the government. Is this not a fact? Even at a point we're asked to say, oh, so GDP was not growing.
But you're not unique in that situation.
Yes, but we are having it done. You go to UK now, interest rate jumping from 0.5 to about 0.15. I mean, inflation rate quadrupled. So no, it's a fourfold, which is about 400% from what is their tax? What is their revenue generation as a percentage of their GDP? It's almost 40%. Go and check. So we have different situations. And even under COVID, the freebies we were giving and other things, were they giving freebies? Were they giving, what is the size of the economy? So what I'm saying is that if somebody is saying that our GDP, so is our
don't
GDP,
think that freebies. Why did we go dispensing?
I'm not saying we
then?
did not have capacity.
I mean, if it wasn't a necessity, did we have to do this? Because
you make a comparative statement. No,
I'm saying if.
But I never said that. Don't change the narrative. You were asking why UK's situation against Ghana, and I'm saying that probably we give output different from what they did.
Decided to do so. When you look at your situation.
No, maybe to them it was not. We are a developing economy. People are very poor. It is a fact.
Okay.
People are very, very poor. Maybe they had more reserve than us. They have bigger economy than us. But what I'm saying is that all the issues with GDP and debt, nobody can take out the fact that in terms of remarkable to blame COVID.
Right.
That is, to me, just propaganda to build scenarios to rubbish what we are doing. But what I'm saying is that, is there not a necessity to generate revenue now? So we should go on borrowing again? No.
I mean, no one wants us to borrow, but fiscal discipline would ensure that we don't get into certain arenas. But let's look at this. It's a question that I have these last 2 years. Is there any statistic? Is there? I mean, from government's end or from the Ghana Statistical Service? Nothing I've seen. But since we have this discussion from time to time about COVID and its impact, maybe we cannot say that it's the sole indicator that has resulted in some of what we are seeing in terms of our economy. But can we quantify? Then maybe we can play the game of, so this has been the impact of COVID on the economy. This is how much it has cost us. Do you think we need something like that?
Yeah, to me, I think it's a very good point you've raised. The developed economies, they do far better than us.
Right.
Your statement, I think if anybody is listening to you, especially the stakeholder groups such as Finance Ministry, even Bank of Ghana, Statistical Services, and all those groups should be able to do what you're talking about.
I mean, you have Hurricane Katrina in the U.S., and they're able to tell you that it cost the economy this number of billions.
What they are saying, it's one of the most sensible issues that we should raise as a country. And this is what we don't do all the time. And since when NDC MP, we don't do them well. And this is why we have problems. Because if you can't measure, how can you manage?
Right.
How can you increase? So what they are saying, I think it should be putting pressure on us as government today and other stakeholder bodies to do this work. But even when we haven't done that, nobody can take away the fact that market and industry, and that will make debt to GDP very high. It is a fact. Right. And where we've gotten to, we need revenue. And they are saying, you see, when you are taking taxes, unless you don't manage it well, but if you manage the process well, is rather better than for even the poor people you are talking about.
Right.
Because taxes are collected, then out of the proceeds, we rather establish and develop satisfactions and utility to create equitability in the system and help everybody along the social stratification. This is what we are supposed to do as a government. I am rather looking forward to Kenyans pushing this government that this time, hey, we know it's hard. We know already we have sour throat, but we need quinine, who will give us better health tomorrow. But we don't want a situation where the quinine is 1 cedi, we say 100 cedis. We don't want a situation where we'll not go and buy genuine quinine. I'm talking about how the process will be used. But for now, I'm only begging Ghanaians that yes, we understand the situation, but should we leave it like that for Ghana to be destroyed perpetually, or we should take this hard decision now so that we can change and all taxes. Let's be honest. All that is my position now. The only thing is that the opposition members had been very successful in pulling some of the stakeholders along, and already people have formed prejudicial positions. But I think now, you think NDC, they are smart people, don't joke with them. If they think this is not going to help Ghana, for Ghana government to probably restore its goodwill, dwindling goodwill, then this would have supported this quickly because they know we are going to lose elections. Right. But they know that we can generate something to look. Somebody also gave this alternative. No statistical figures, but I love it so much. He said that why shouldn't the government restore toll booth, which the people are already used to, quantify that amount, reduce and do the proportions, and reduce even the 1.5 again.
Right.
Which is perfect.
Right.
This is what I'm expecting. But if experts, this guy is not expert, he's not even educated like you and me. But if experts are working on that, they should do that with figures. Just as you're asking.
Of course, technically, you can't just put it out there. You must back it with figures and what the ultimate outcome is.
Perfect.
On hindsight,
yeah.
do you feel you goofed with this whole bit about the tolls and taking them off? They were contributing about, from what I hear, about 200,000 to Akiti per day. And I also know that, of course, people will talk about the cost of even collecting the funds as well, which was amounting to many tens of millions per year. That we could have addressed.
Do you know why I can't say we goofed or not?
Why?
I can't say that because, one, I don't know, as you said, the financial economic analysis they did. I'm a financial economist. I would have sat down, calculate, do figures with it, and find the pros and the cons. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
I would have done that so that those figures can let me say that they goofed or not. But whether we goofed or not, decisions are always reviewed, either upwards or downwards. And I think if maybe the good suggestion somebody gave, a young man who's not probably, I'm not saying he's illiterate, but maybe he's not even a finance person, or maybe like you or me. It's nice if government could put figures to it and say that, okay, we want to restore the road toll, the structures are there, people were made redundant, want to put them back, and then calculate that amount. That will enable us reduce maybe the 1.5 figure to maybe 1.2 to make up the figure, the values or the proceeds we are anticipating. I'm sure it's good, but whether they goofed or not, I cannot, because I'm not part of the cabinet. I'm not in finance.
Looking at it broadly, what this person says, is it something you would subscribe to? I mean, not getting into...
No, personally, if I have the discretion or exclusive right, I think it's the best thing. You see, So
reinitiate the levies, bring them back. We're raking in something from there, lower the E-levy.
So that the expected generation or whatever will get...
Or the deficit. So what the tolls will bring you, you take that out of the 6.9 billion or so that you're expecting.
Yes, and
then the rest,
you
add the percentage to E-levy.
It's perfect. Right. Two, most of the suggestions made by experts, I agree, but my point is they should go further, because if you say we should reduce 1%, you should be able to give us detailed work to show that 1% will give us $1 billion.
Right.
Considering Ghana's obligation in the area of health, education, social intervention, all this, we need about 1.2. That would mean that we have been able to manage our fiscal space by raising 80% of our needs.
Right.
Maybe 20% royalties and else can be given to, maybe if you want to borrow, your rate will go down. This is what I'm expecting from our experts, which we haven't done. Just like now we can't put figure. Maybe they have the figure, but I don't know, you don't know.
Right.
that the figure that, oh, the
which then becomes problematic because
I should have known.
Even
I'm
as
a finance committee.
Yes, but I'm saying that even as government, in pushing an e-levy and all of that, imagine if you had the figures. You would be able to say, this is
maybe
what
done.
Impact COVID has had on our economy. Let's say 50 billion cedis. Let's just say.
Maybe they've done.
And on the back of that, that is why you are seeing these pockets of deficits in our economy and this and that.
Maybe they've done.
And so this is the justice. I mean, I feel people would respond better.
No, but what you are saying is splendid. It's perfect. But I'll find out maybe they've done. Maybe they've done. Maybe they've not done. But what you are saying is, if you have found that this has been the problem of this country over 40 years now, I find this to be a problem not only with the MPP or even NDC, but even our private sector actors. Even our private sector actors that normally doing comprehensive work on such policies with facts and figures, real figures that we could base our projections and our hopes and anticipations on. Normally we have problems with that, which we need to do. And I think if the policy makers in this regard, those who have the discretion to do this, if they've done, maybe we have forgotten, or at our blind side, they should come clear. If not, they should quickly work on some figures. Let us know. Based on these figures, if it will help us going forward. Right. Because without the figures, some of our decisions might be as a result of arbitrariness. You understand what I'm saying? So your concern is so perfect. And the experts,
right?
Okay, to do more work on their proposals, and let's see the figures. We can still pass the e-levy. If the figures and other things are okay, we can still replace that with a comprehensive program going forward as a country. Right. But I think in the short term, the immediacy of this whole tax, we cannot heap scorn on and joke with, because we are a country being run by fiscal space which is congested.
Okay.
And mostly or remarkably because our productivity, our labor force size from the private sector, our industry operations were impaired by this COVID, and it is a fact. Government made a lot of outlays, our economic stability, and put it on the trajectory of growth.
Thank you, Doc.
It's very
let me bring it.